Simón José Antonio de la Santísima Trinidad Bolívar Palacios Ponte y Blanco was born on July 24, 1783, in Caracas, Venezuela. His family was one of the wealthiest and most influential in the region, owning vast estates and numerous slaves. Simón Bolívar was born in Caracas in the Captaincy General of Venezuela into a wealthy family of American-born Spaniards, Criollo, but lost both parents as a child. Despite the wealth and comfort of his early years, Bolívar's life was marked by profound loss. When he was just 3 years old, his father died. At 9, he lost his mother. These tragedies profoundly impacted young Simón, leaving him in the care of his uncles. One figure who played a pivotal role in Bolívar's early development was his tutor, Simón Rodríguez. Rodríguez was a radical thinker, deeply influenced by the Enlightenment. He introduced Bolívar to the works of Rousseau, Montesquieu, and Voltaire, planting the seeds of revolutionary ideas. Under Rodríguez's guidance, Bolívar began to see the world differently. He started to question the injustices of colonial rule and the rigid social hierarchies that defined his world. Bolívar was educated abroad and lived in Spain, as was common for men of upper-class families in his day. While living in Madrid from 1800 to 1802, he was introduced to Enlightenment philosophy and married Maria Teresa Rodríguez del Toro y Alesa, who died in Venezuela from yellow fever in 1803. In Madrid, he studied under the watchful eye of his uncle, but it was in Paris that Bolívar's revolutionary spirit was truly awakened. Paris, at the dawn of the 19th century, was a city of ideas and change. The echoes of the French Revolution were still felt in the air. Bolívar immersed himself in this vibrant atmosphere, absorbing the revolutionary fervor and the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. In 1805, on a fateful trip to Rome, Bolívar made a solemn vow atop Monte Sacro. With the ruins of ancient empires beneath him, he pledged to dedicate his life to the liberation of South America from Spanish rule. Bolívar's vow was more than a promise, it was a declaration of intent. He returned to Venezuela with a new purpose, ready to ignite the flame of revolution. The boy who left Venezuela had returned as a man, armed with knowledge, inspired by the Enlightenment, and driven by an unyielding desire for freedom. The stage was set for Bolívar to begin his journey, a journey that would change the course of history forever. Upon his return to Venezuela in 1807, Simón Bolívar found a land under the oppressive rule of the Spanish crown. The society was deeply divided by class and race, with a growing desire for change simmering beneath the surface. In 1810, a wave of revolution swept across South America. Inspired by the American and French revolutions, Bolívar joined the ranks of those who sought to break free from colonial rule. He quickly emerged as a leading figure, driven by the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. On July 5, 1811, the First Venezuelan Republic was declared, marking the beginning of a tumultuous struggle for independence. Bolívar, however, knew that the road to freedom would be long and arduous. Bolívar's early campaigns were marked by both triumph and tragedy. He led his troops through unforgiving jungles and across treacherous rivers, often facing overwhelming odds. His tenacity and strategic brilliance earned him the loyalty of his men and the respect of his enemies. Bolívar arrived at Puerto Cabello on May 4, 1812. On June 30th, an officer of the fort's garrison loyal to the Royalists released its prisoners, armed them, and turned its cannons on Porto Cabello. Weakened by shelling, defections, and lack of supplies, Bolívar and his remaining troops fled for La Guaira on July 6. Believing the Republic to be doomed, Miranda decided to capitulate, shocking Bolívar and other Republican officers. After formally surrendering his command to Monteverde on July 25, Miranda made his way to La Guaira, where a group of officers including Bolívar arrested Miranda on July 30 on charges of treason against the Republic. La Guaira declared for the Royalists the next day and closed its port on Monteverde's orders. Miranda was taken into Spanish custody and moved to a prison in Cadiz, where he died on July 16, 1816. In 1813, Bolívar launched the Admirable Campaign, a daring and swift military offensive that aimed to liberate Venezuela from Spanish control. The campaign was a success, and Bolívar was hailed as El Libertador, the Liberator. But victory was fleeting. The Spanish forces, determined to retain their grip on the colonies, launched a brutal counteroffensive. The Republic fell, and Bolívar was forced to retreat, seeking refuge and regrouping in New Granada, present-day Colombia. Undeterred, Bolívar continued his fight from New Granada. He rallied support and rebuilt his forces, forging alliances with other revolutionary leaders and indigenous communities. His vision extended beyond Venezuela. He dreamed of a liberated and united South America. On January 2, 1814, Bolívar was made the dictator of a Second Republic of Venezuela, which retained the weaknesses of the First Republic. Though all of Venezuela but Maracaibo, Coro, and Guayana was controlled by Republicans, Bolívar only governed western Venezuela. The east was controlled by Santiago Moreno, a Venezuelan Republican who had fought Monteverde in the east throughout 1813 and was unwilling to subordinate himself to Bolívar. Venezuela was economically devastated and could not support the Republic's armies, and people of color remained disenfranchised and thus unsupportive of the Republic. The Republic was assailed from all sides by slave revolts and royalist forces, especially the Legion of Hell, an army of llaneros, the horsemen of the Llanos, to the south, led by the Spanish warlord José Tomás Boves. Beginning in February 1814, Boves surged out of the Llanos and overwhelmed the Republic, occupying Caracas on July 16 and then destroying Moreno's power base on December 5 at the Battle of Urica, where Boves died. As Boves approached Caracas, Bolívar ordered the city stripped of its gold and silver, which was moved through La Guaira to Barcelona, Venezuela, 187, and from there to Cumana. Bolívar then led 20,000 of its citizens east. He arrived in Barcelona on August 2, but following another defeat at the Battle of Aragua de Barcelona on August 17, 1814, he moved to Cumana. On August 26, he sailed with Moreno to Margarita Island with the treasure. The officer in control of the island, Manuel Piar, declared Bolívar and Moreno to be traitors and forced them to return to the mainland. There, Ribas also accused Bolívar and Moreno of treachery, confiscated the treasure, and then exiled the two on September 8. Bolívar arrived in Cartagena on September 19 and then met with the New Granadan Congress in Tunja, which tasked him with subduing the rival free and independent state of Cundinamarca. On December 12, Bolívar captured Cundinamarca's capital, Bogotá, and was given command of New Granada's armies in January 1815. Bolívar next grappled with Del Castillo, who had taken control of Cartagena. Bolívar besieged the city for 6 weeks. His change of focus allowed the royalist forces to regain control of the Magdalena. On May 8, Bolívar made a truce with Del Castillo, resigned his command, and sailed for self-exile on Jamaica as a result of this error. In July, 8,000 Spanish soldiers commanded by Spanish General Pablo Murillo landed at Santa Marta and then besieged Cartagena, which capitulated on December 6. Del Castillo was executed. In 1819, Bolívar achieved a significant victory at the Battle of Boyaca, a turning point in the war for independence. This triumph led to the liberation of New Granada and paved the way for the creation of Gran Colombia, a new republic encompassing modern-day Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Panama. One of Bolívar's most legendary feats was the crossing of the Andes in 1819, a daring and arduous journey that many deemed impossible. Bolívar led his army through freezing temperatures and treacherous terrain to surprise and defeat the Spanish forces at the Battle of Pichincha, securing the independence of Ecuador. After Christmas Day, 1819, Bolívar left Angostura to direct campaigns against royalist forces along the Caribbean coasts of Venezuela and New Granada. He met with Santander in Bogotá in March 1820, then rode to Cúcuta and inspected Republican forces in northern Colombia over April and May 1820. Meanwhile, Murillo's military and political position was fatally undermined by the mutiny of Spanish soldiers in Cadiz on January 1, which forced Ferdinand VII to accept a liberal constitution in March. News of the mutiny and its consequences arrived in Colombia in March and was followed by orders from Spain to Murillo to publicize the constitution and negotiate a peace that would return Colombia to the Spanish Empire. Bolívar and Murillo, seeking to gain leverage over each other, delayed talks until November 21, when Colombian and royalist delegates met in Trujillo, Venezuela. The delegates completed 2 treaties on November 25, establishing a 6-month truce, a prisoner exchange, and basic rights for combatants. Bolívar and Murillo signed the treaties on the 25th and the 26th of November, then met the next day at Santa Ana de Trujillo. After this meeting, Murillo turned his command over to Spanish General Miguel de la Torre and departed for Spain on December 17. Bolívar's victories continued. In February 1821, as Bolívar was traveling from Bogotá to Cúcuta in anticipation of the opening of a new Congress there, he learned that royalist-controlled Maracaibo had defected to Colombia and been occupied by Urdaneta. La Torre protested to Bolívar, who refused to return Maracaibo, leading to a renewal of hostilities on April 28. Over May and June, Colombia's armies made rapid progress until, on June 24, Bolívar and Páez decisively defeated La Torre at the Battle of Carabobo. All royalist forces remaining in Venezuela were eliminated by August 1823. Bolívar entered Caracas in triumph on June 29, and issued a decree on July 16 dividing Venezuela into 3 military zones governed by Páez, Bermudez, and Moreno. Bolívar then met with the Congress of Cúcuta, which had ratified the formation of Gran Colombia and elected him as president and Santander as vice president in September. Bolívar accepted and was sworn in on October 3, although he protested the establishment of a precedent of military leaders as head of the Colombian state. Despite the immense challenges and personal sacrifices, Bolívar's vision of a liberated South America began to take shape. His campaigns were not just military triumphs but also symbols of hope and resilience for the oppressed. Bolívar, the liberator, had become the embodiment of the struggle for independence and the dream of a united continent. Bolívar's military successes had resulted in the liberation of vast territories. By 1824, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and the newly named Bolivia were free from Spanish rule. Bolívar's dream of Gran Colombia, a federation of these newly independent states, began to take shape. The liberation was met with widespread jubilation. People from all walks of life celebrated their newfound freedom, hopeful for a future of prosperity and equality. Bolívar was hailed as a hero, a symbol of the triumph of liberty over tyranny. However, the reality of governance proved to be a formidable challenge. The newly independent states were diverse in culture, language, and regional interests. Political divisions and rivalries quickly emerged, threatening the fragile unity Bolívar had worked so hard to achieve. Bolívar's vision of a united Latin America faced numerous obstacles. Regional leaders sought greater autonomy, and personal ambitions often clashed with the collective good. Despite Bolívar's efforts to mediate and maintain unity, the Federation of Gran Colombia began to unravel. Bolívar's correspondence from this period reveals his deep frustration and disappointment. He worked tirelessly, drafting decrees and letters, urging for cooperation and unity. His health began to deteriorate under the immense pressure, yet he never wavered in his commitment to his vision. Although Bolívar's dream of a unified Latin America was not fully realized, his legacy endured. Cities, institutions, and even a country were named in his honor. Bolívar became a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for those striving for freedom and justice. Every year, the country's Bolívar helped to celebrate his legacy with parades, educational programs, and public ceremonies. Monuments and statues stand as testament to his enduring impact. Bolívar's ideals of liberty, equality, and unity continue to inspire new generations. Simón Bolívar's story is taught in schools across South America, his life and achievements forming an essential part of the region's history and identity. His vision of a just and united continent serves as a guiding light, reminding us of the power of courage and the enduring quest for freedom. In his final years, Simón Bolívar found himself in Santa Marta, Colombia. The liberator, who once commanded armies and inspired nations, was now a man weakened by illness and political disillusionment. Bolívar's health had deteriorated significantly. Tuberculosis, compounded by the relentless stress of political strife and betrayal, took its toll on his once vigorous body. In the quietude of his last residence, Bolívar wrote extensively, reflecting on his life's work and the future of the continent he fought so hard to liberate. He was deeply saddened by the political fragmentation and infighting that plagued the newly independent nations. Despite his declining health, Bolívar remained intellectually active, dictating letters and providing guidance to those still loyal to his vision. His final days were marked by a mix of resignation and enduring hope for Latin America's future. On December 17, 1830, Simón Bolívar passed away at the age of 47. His death marked the end of an era, but the beginning of an enduring legacy. Bolívar's final words were a poignant reflection of his life's mission: "If my death contributes to the end of partisanship and a consolidation of the Union, I shall be lowered in peace into my grave." Bolívar's death was met with mourning across the continent. He was honored as a national hero, and his vision of unity and independence left an indelible mark on Latin America. Though Bolívar's dream of a unified Latin America was never fully realized, his influence is deeply woven into the fabric of the region. The nations he helped to liberate, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, stand as testaments to his tireless efforts and indomitable spirit. Monuments and statues across the continent commemorate Bolívar's contributions. His ideals of liberty, justice, and equality continue to inspire movements for social and political change. Educational curricula, public celebrations, and political discourse frequently invoke Bolívar's legacy. He remains a symbol of the struggle for freedom and the pursuit of a just society. Simón Bolívar's life was a testament to the power of vision and determination. From the valleys of Venezuela to the peaks of the Andes, his spirit of liberation and his relentless quest for unity echo through the ages. The liberator's story is not just history, it is a living narrative of hope, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of a better future for all.